We just heard neither Hunter Biden or Joe Biden did anything wrong, and there is no evidence to show that they did anything wrong. Peter, you've written books about this. This is not even your first book about the crimes that and corruption that have been involved in the Biden family. How do you react when you see a montage like that?
Well, it just shows the absolute failure of the institution of the media that we had relied on so much in the past. I mean, they all declared that there was nothing wrong that had happened. None of them lifted a finger to do anything to report on the story. When we got, for example, the Hunter Biden laptop, we didn't accept it as truthful. We actually took the laptop, compared it to information we knew was true. For example, the Secret Service had released some of Hunter Biden's travel records, and we compared those travel records with the laptop, and they matched perfectly. And so there's no way that this could have been made up, but the media wasn't interested in this story. And that's part of the problem. They selectively pick and choose which stories on the powerful that they want to do. They all seem to skew one way. And now you have the New York Times, admitting in a backhanded way in paragraph 17 of an article that, oh, okay, yes, the laptop is actually accurate. The laptop is absolutely devastating from a legal and a political standpoint on the Biden family. The question is now, are any of them going to lift a finger and actually report on this story?
And I fear that they will not, though it's, I think, a pretty interesting development that they at least mentioned that it was legitimate. This is something they have stayed away from. And as you know, the montage was just CNN hosts, but this was all over the media saying there was no evidence, this was not true, over and over and over again for a period of years. And all of a sudden, it's just kind of spilled out in an article that, okay, yeah, the laptop was legit, real emails were on it. What does this mean? Why are they all of a sudden making this declaration?
Well, I think this is really interesting, Stu. If you read that New York Times piece where on paragraph 17 they admit their laptop is real, it's clear that they got a lot of help from Team Biden in the story. This concerns a grand jury that was convened in 2018 to look into allegations of tax evasion and money laundering involving Hunter Biden. The fact that Team Biden, decided to actually cooperate with the New York Times on a story is a direct indication to me that they are extremely concerned that Hunter Biden is in fact going to be indicted. They even dropped a couple nuggets in there that said, yes, Hunter Biden failed to pay his taxes. He recently made a $1 million payment to the IRS. And juries and judges tend to, even if people are convicted of of tax evasion, they tend not to give them long prison sentences if they paid their taxes. This is all about management control. The problem is, Stu, that the laptop does not just point the finger at Hunter Biden, it points a finger at Joe Biden. Because as he's taking in all this money where he's not paying taxes, one of the beneficiaries of the money is Joe Biden. The laptop shows that Hunter Biden's paying his monthly bills. He's doing things like renovations on his home that is illegal, but will come out in this tax case. So they have a very real problem in my view.
Yeah, and I think there's a building, you mentioned this, and I think there's a building belief that something legal could actually happen with Hunter Biden, no matter, it might be a fine, it could be a prison sentence. Nobody knows at this point. But I think people are letting it stop there. I think the imagination of the media is going to say, okay, well, yeah, Hunter Biden, now we can admit he was a bad guy. Look at all the stuff he's done. He's obviously had all these problems. Sure, he was a bad guy. But it stops there. It's got nothing to do with Joe Biden. That's just a smear campaign against the president. Your book goes into this, and not only had the laptop, but also access to separate email accounts that verified a lot of this information. Can you kind of walk people through the outline of the evidence that does show that there's something going on here?
Yeah, I mean, it involves a number of countries. Russia, for example, you had a lot of pro-Putin oligarchs that were sending millions of dollars to Hunter Biden. You had the situation in Ukraine. To me, the most troubling aspect of the Biden story concerns specifically China, because the laptop shows that the Biden family received some $31 million from deals in China, deals that they brought nothing to this table on, and that those deals were arranged by 4 Chinese businessmen who are named. And when you look into those 4 businessmen, each and every one of them has ties to the highest levels of Chinese intelligence. So this was a clear effort by Beijing to engage in what they call elite capture, which is basically to try to gain influence or leverage over foreign political leaders. And they succeeded in doing so. And the problem is, of course, that Hunter Biden failed to pay taxes on them, on this money, which is a huge problem and, of course, against the law. But there's also allegations the grand jury is looking into as it relates to money laundering. There are all these things in the corporate records of Biden companies that claim by Hunter Biden and his business partners that they were handling hundreds of millions of dollars in investments for Yelena Baturina, this Russian oligarch. That would be a definition of money laundering, somebody who's trying to hide their assets in the West. So there are a whole host of serious problems, in addition to the fact that the grand jury is looking into what are called FARA violations, which is the Foreign Agents Registration Act. If you are doing anything before the federal government involving a foreign national, a foreign government, or a foreign corporation, you're required to file with the U.S. Justice Department. People have gone to jail for failing to do so. There is huge amounts of evidence in the laptop that Hunter Biden was doing this very thing, that he was representing foreign individuals, foreign companies, and foreign governments to try to get favors done during the Obama-Biden administration, and he never registered at all with the Department of Justice. So there's plenty here for Team Biden to be concerned about. And I think this grand jury seems to be very serious, very engaged, and they seem to have heard a lot of very interesting evidence.
When you look at all the evidence that you have, Peter, which is obviously extensive, do you see this playing out at this point? Are we at a level of this obviously needs to have an investigation and a serious legal look at it? Is there enough here that you are sure that there was a crime committed or something close to a crime? What is the level of evidence that you think we have without the legal investigation?
Well, I always preface everything, Stu, by saying I'm not an attorney. But if you look at what the law says and you look what Hunter Biden did and what Joe Biden did, which was receive gifts to subsidize his lifestyle as an elected official, that's patently against the law. That's forbidden by federal law. So that's already clear cut. But beyond the legal questions, Stu, we have a national security question here. I mean, China is our chief rival on the global stage. They view themselves as being in this intense competition with us. Imagine if during the Cold War, Jimmy Carter's family or Ronald Reagan's family was doing deals with Russian businessmen that we knew were linked to the KGB. That would be setting off alarm bells on Capitol Hill. And it's my hope that if the Republicans do retake the House of Representatives and or the Senate, that we will have the oversight committees that have subpoena power bring people into questioning. I mean, do we really want to normalize the behavior that says the family members of high-ranking U.S. officials at the Pentagon, the State Department, or the White House can now be doing deals with businessmen linked to foreign intelligence services? I don't think so. So let's not have a Biden exception, because if you allow a Biden exception, you are then going to get everybody doing this. Because if there's one ironclad rule of Washington, D.C., Stu, that is if you let people get away with making money in an illicit or dangerous way, a lot more people are going to do it.
Yeah, those secrets don't get hidden too long. People want to replicate them, not prosecute them. Can we talk a little bit about the influence operations in China and how this comes down the pike? Because part of the strategy of the Chinese Communist Party is to do outreach and to bring people in who are maybe already personally compromised. Maybe they're morally compromised. Maybe they're kind of just dumb. I mean, I swear that's why Eric Swalwell got attention. There's some sort of approach that they have that starts at a low level intentionally and is easy to rise up family paths and paths of power. Did you see that in the documents, and is that a good outline of about how it works?
Yeah, I mean, the way to think about this, Stu, think about it as a seduction. You know, you don't want to come on too strong at the beginning because things are probably going to go south. But if you move slowly and progressively, maybe it's money, maybe it's prestige and flattery. There are all kinds of techniques they use. But we know that explicitly China has a strategy called elite capture. They've done it in New Zealand, Australia, Singapore. They are doing it in the United States, and it's pretty brilliant. They're essentially going to decapitate America's leadership by buying off the political class. This includes Democrats and Republicans. Mitch McConnell, I would say, is in a similar category as Joe Biden. And they're not looking for robots. They're very sophisticated in the way that they do this. What they're looking for in terms translated to English is what they call big help with a little bad mouth. And what that means is they don't mind if Joe Biden or Mitch McConnell dings them on the Uyghurs or on the human rights situation or maybe some of their military buildup. That's fine. The big help they want is making sure that they have access to our technology, to our markets, our capital markets, and also access to our marketplace so that they can become the preeminent manufacturer on the global stage. And if a political figure will give them that with a little bit of the bad mouth, they are very fine and happy. And if you look at the posture of the Biden administration, it's hard to find anything they've done other than offered a lot of big help with a little bad mouth. And that's what's so disconcerting about what's going on right now.
Do you have, Peter, any idea if there's a political will on either side of the aisle, honestly, to change this situation, to stop this corruption on both sides and make sure that it stops and we don't have this situation where we are really under the hand of China and really whatever they want to do?
Yeah, it's a great question. The last chapter in Red Handed is called Fighting Back, and I really try to point out this is a bipartisan problem, and it's also potentially a bipartisan solution. There are some Republicans that have been really good on China. Of course, Donald Trump was good on China. If you look in the Senate, guys like Marco Rubio and Ted Cruz have been really good on China. But there have been some Democrats as well. I don't give a lot of praise to Senator Chuck Schumer, but I have to say when it comes to China, he's actually been pretty good. Democratic Senator Warner from Virginia has been pretty good. So my hope is that these individuals will be prepared to call out their own colleagues. It's always easy for the Republicans to point to Biden or for Democrats to point to McConnell. But the way you're going to clean house is by people being prepared to call out their own side. That takes a lot of political courage. And Stu, I'm going to go out on a limb here and say that's something in short supply in Washington, D.C. these days.
Very, very true. And I will say, just full disclosure, Peter, we will have to beep out your praise for Chuck Schumer. You could swear all you want, but we cannot have Chuck Schumer praise air on this program. Peter Schweizer, he's the president of the Government Accountability Institute, author of a great book that you have to read. It's Red Handed: How American Elites Get Rich Helping China Win. Peter, thanks so much for coming on the program. I really appreciate it.
It's always great to be with you, Stu. Thanks.
If you enjoyed this video, hit like and subscribe to our channel so you'll be sure to see similar videos from BlazeTV with the added bonus of signaling YouTube that your voice and opinion still matters. And if you're looking for more great conservative content, check out one of the 2 videos suggested here. And let's go.